Grandma's Storytime. This is the book we're reading, Adventures of the Wishing Chair by Enid Blyton. Put on your glasses, Grandma. It's getting very exciting. Remember what happened in the last chapter? Mother lost her ring and Chinky did a magic spell and it made blue smoke, which tells us a goblin was in the yard and he found it. And they went to the goblin Big-Ears and he said yes, he took it, but he gave it to a Snoogle. What is a Snoogle? Peter and Mollie and Chinky got in the wishing chair and they're off. Chapter 25. The Snoogle. The wishing chair was off to find the Snoogle. If the Snoogle has your mother's ring, we shall have to find some way of getting it back, said Chinky. I wonder who or what he is. I've never heard of him before. The chair flew on. Soon in the distance the three could see an enormous castle set on a hilltop. At the bottom, all around the foot, was a great moat full of water. A drawbridge stretched across the moat. But even as the children looked at it, it was drawn up into the gateway of the castle side of the moat. There's no way of getting in the Snoogle's castle except for flying. That's plain, said Chinky. Fly onto the roof, wishing chair. The wishing chair flew onto the roof of the castle. It was turreted and the chair flew over the turrets and down onto the flat part behind. Sitting on the roof, basking in the sunshine, was a Snoogle. The children stared at it in astonishment. He was the funniest looking creature they had ever seen. He had the body of a dragon, the tail of a cat, always twirling and twisting, and the head of a yellow duck. He was sitting in the deck chair, fast asleep. The wishing chair flew down beside his chair, and the children stared at the Snoogle. They did not get out of the chair because, really, they hardly liked the look of the Snoogle. But Chinky jumped down and went to have a good stare at him. Went the sleeping Snoogle. Hi! Wake up, Snoogle! Shouted Chinky, and he gave the Snoogle a poke in the chest. The Snoogle woke up in a fright and quacked loudly. He leapt onto his 2 pairs of dragon feet and glared at Chinky. I've come to fetch the ring that Big-Ears the Goblin gave you, said Chinky boldly. Will you get it, please?
You better get it yourself,
said the Snoogle sulkily. Where is it then? Said Chinky.
Go down the stairs there. Walk down about 200 steps,
said the Snoogle.
You'll come to a bolted door. Unbolt it and walk in. You will see my bedroom there. In a big box on the mantelpiece you will find the ring. It was given to me by Big-Ears, and I think you should give me something in return to it.
You shall have nothing, cried Chinky. You knew quite well that Big-Ears should not have taken that ring from our garden. I believe you were just keeping it for him till people had forgotten it and had given up hunting for it. You are just as dishonest as Big-Ears. The Snoogle waved its cat-like tail to and fro in anger. It gave a few loud quacks.
Quack, quack, quack.
But Chinky only laughed. He didn't seem one bit afraid of that Snoogle. I'll go down and get the ring, he said to the others. You stay here. He ran down the steps, but no sooner had he disappeared down them that the Snoogle also went down, following softly behind Chinky. Oh, he's gone to catch Chinky, cried Mollie. Shout, Peter, shout and warn him. So Peter shouted with all his might, but Chinky was too far down the steps to hear. The Snoogle waited for him to unbolt the bedroom door, and then, when Chinky was safely inside looking for the box on the mantelpiece, He slammed the door and bolted it.
Quack!
He cried with a deep chuckle.
Now you are caught, you cheeky little pixie.
Mollie and Peter were running down the steps shouting to Chinky. They suddenly heard the sound of the bedroom door being slammed and the bolts driven home. "Stop, Mollie," said Peter, clutching hold of her arm. "Chinky is caught. It's no use us running straight into the Snoogle as he comes back. Slip into this room here and perhaps he'll go past us up onto the roof again." They slipped into a nearby room. They hid behind the door. As he passed, the Snoogle popped his head into the room and looked around, but he didn't see the two children squeezed tightly behind the door.
Quack!
He said loudly and went on up the steps. Mollie and Peter slipped out of the room as soon as it was safe and ran to where Chinky was hammering on the inside of the bolted door in a furious rage. "Let me out! Let me out!" he was shouting. "Chinky, Chinky, hush," said Peter. "We're just going to unbolt the door." The bolts were big and heavy. It took both Mollie and Peter to pull them back. They opened the door, and there was Chinky, looking as angry as could be. "To think I could have been trapped so easily," said Chinky. "Anyway, I've got the ring. Look." He showed them a ring, and sure enough, it was the very one their mother had lost. Mollie and Peter were so pleased. "Now I'll just go and tell the Snoogle what I think of him," said Chinky fiercely. "I'm not afraid of any Snoogle. Silly duck-headed creature." "Oh, Chinky, do be careful," said Mollie, half afraid. "We've got the ring. Can't we just go quietly up to the roof and get on our chair and fly away? I'd much rather do that." "We'll get into the chair and fly away all right," said Chinky. "But I'm going to tell that Snoogle a few things first." The children had never seen the little pixie look so angry. He marched up the steps and out to the roof. Mollie and Peter followed. The Snoogle was looking all around for the two children, quacking angrily.
Quack, 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 quack.
He was surprised to see them coming up the steps, and even more surprised to see Chinky, whom he thought was safely bolted down in the room. "Now look here, Snoogle," said Chinky boldly, walking right up to the surprised creature. "How dare you try to capture me like that? I am a pixie, yes, and a very powerful one too. I can do spells that would frighten you. Shall I turn you into a black beetle? Or a tadpole? Or a wasp without a sting?" To the children's surprise, the Snoogle looked very, very frightened. He was such a big creature compared to Chinky. It seemed strange that he should be so scared of him. "I've a good mind to fly off in our chair to the pixiekin and complain of you," said Chinky. "You will have your castle taken away from you then for daring to interfere with the pixie."
No one can get me out of my castle,
said the Snoogle in a quacking sort of voice.
"I have a big moat around and a drawbridge that I keep drawn up for months on end. Do your worst, stupid little pixie."
"Very well then, I will," said Chinky. "But just to go on with, take that, you silly Snoogle." Chinky took hold of the Snoogle's waving tail and pulled it hard. Naughty Chinky. There was no need to do something like that. It made the Snoogle very angry indeed. But he did not dare to touch the children or Chinky, for he really was afraid of Chinky's magic. But the Snoogle was not afraid of the wishing chair. He ran to it and stood by it.
"You shall not fly off in your chair now. Quack, 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 quack. Ah, that will punish you. Quack, 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 quack.
Oh, yes, we will, shouted Chinky, and he ran to push the Snoogle away. But oh dear, whatever do you suppose the Snoogle did? With 4 hard pecks, he pecked off the wings of the poor wishing chair. There they lay on the ground, 4 bunches of red feathers. "Oh, you wicked creature!" shouted Mollie in a rage. "You have spoilt our lovely, lovely wishing chair. Oh, how could you do a thing like that? Oh, Chinky, why did you make the Snoogle angry? Look what he's done!" Mollie burst into tears. She couldn't bear to see the wings of the wishing chair on the ground instead of flapping merrily on the chair legs. Peter turned pale. He did not know how they would get home now. Chinky was full of horror. Oh, he hadn't thought that such a thing would happen, and it has now.
Well, quack, quack, quack. I think you'll agree you can't fly away now,
said the Snoogle with a grin.
Take your chair and go down to the kitchen. You can live there now. No one ever comes here, and you can't get out. So we shall be nice company for each other.
Chinky picked up the chair. The 3 of them walked down the steps very solemnly. "We're in a pretty fix now," said Peter gloomily. "I don't know what we're going to do now that our wishing chair can't fly." Oh dear. You know that's the end of the chapter. Fancy being cranky at a Snoogle. Fancy even biting the wings off a wishing chair. Let's see what happens. Have a think about it tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.